Hi everybody, this video is about simple measuring equipment, namely engineer's rules. The first thing to understand is the units that an engineer's rules broken into, and in this case these small units down this side here are millimetres, on this side here half millimetres, and the larger numbers are in centimetres. It's not normal really in the workshop for us to use centimetres because they're too big a measurement. As far as the units go, back in the 1790s, most people were using, or most countries were using, imperial measurements, feet and inches, miles, that sort of thing. And in the 1790s in France, they changed to a new system called SI units, and they started to use millimetres, centimetres, metres, kilometres, that type of measurement. That came into Australia in 1970, and it's been fully adopted since. One or two countries still do use imperial measurements, but not many. Some have got it partially introduced. America, or the United States of America, still uses feet and inches and miles, but we're not going to discuss those at all. So if you ever do come across a drawing in a magazine or something like that that's in feet and inches, an inch is about 25.4 millimetres, just to give you an idea. So this is the engineer's rule. This, as I've said to you already, has got mils down on one side and half millimetres on the other. It doesn't have an extra part on the end, so that is the 0 point where my finger actually is. The graphics rules that you use, the plastic ones, do have a small plastic piece on the end here just to protect the end. But this doesn't have protection at all, so it's very important to look after that end, look after these edges. So storage is really important, and in this case this rule is a 300mm one. It's got a hole at the end, look, that you can actually hang this up. These are available in 150mm, which is handy for your workshop pocket, 300mm, 500mm and 1000mm or 1 metre lengths. So as far as using this bit of equipment goes, when you're actually measuring out with it, and if I just take a piece of timber, it's very easy to sort of use, but it's very easy to muck it up as well. And don't forget of the sort of saying that you've heard many times about measure twice, cut once. Well, you can never measure enough really, but some of the sort of errors that people tend to make when using these is that they don't hold the rule square to an edge that they want to, datum edge that they're wanting to mark out at, okay? Or they don't look square on, and I'm looking from my vantage point. If I look from that angle there, the rule may look like it's up against the edge, whereas if I actually move it across, it may well not be. So it's very important to make sure that the rule, the 0 point, is up against the edge of the timber, and it's also up against this edge here, or it's at least parallel with this edge here, just to make sure that when you mark out the timber, you're not getting a false reading because you're at an angle. The other beauty of the engineer's rule also is this: if you've got a shoulder on a piece of timber like we have here, with it not having the plastic part on the end or the additional part on the end, you can actually mark or measure right into a shoulder, look. So the zero's there, and if you need to mark with accuracy, it's very easy to do that, okay? So you can mark into a shoulder. Just moving on then, if you want to mark, or measure I should say, something that's round, this is where you need to be a little bit more careful. Again, with it having the 0, it just fits in there at a slight angle, and you can't really see this well. Maybe if I put my pencil down and bring this closer to the camera, there we go. You can clearly see there that Again, if we're square to the edge, that's about square to the edge. That's been cut out with a 30mm bit to create that hole. Okay, so that's mainly it for the engineer's rule. Very, very useful bit of kit. Remember what I've said to you about the differences. Looking after these, obviously keep them clean, wipe them down with just a little bit of oil on a cloth. This is a stainless steel one. These are about $25 a piece, so they're not cheap. So just moving on from that then, the other bit of kit we're just going to look at is this one here, and this is the retractable tape. The retractable tape is, in this case, it's an 8-metre tape. These normally come between 2 and 10 metres in length. They're spring loaded, so there's a spring in there to let it retract on its own. It's not good practice to let that go and just let that go in. It will damage the spring in time. This is a piece of steel that's very thin, that's slightly curved. I don't know if you can see the curve on it there. And with that being curved, it helps keep its rigidity. So it doesn't need support over a given distance. That given distance might be a metre and a half or something like that. This one locks in place. It's got a hook on the end, so we can actually hook it over a length of timber to measure. Okay, so we don't need a second pair of hands if it's a long length. So if we were marking out a piece of material for a stud wall, or marking the centres for a gyprock wall or something like that, this hook on the end is extremely useful. You can clip it onto your belt. Okay, if your hands are slightly wet, it's got this grip here, and it's also got that extra thumb grip there for that as well. Okay, it's really important you control this when it retracts back into the body, or it will damage the spring. Don't overstretch it as well. It says it's 8 metres long. Don't try and make it 8.1 metres and strain the spring, otherwise the spring will die on you and the tape won't retract anymore. So for you at school at the moment, the retractable tape and the engineer's rule are the two main pieces of measuring equipment when we need a degree of accuracy to 1 or possibly half a millimetre that you'll actually use. So thanks very much for listening to this tutorial, and good luck.